So you're new to Genshin, you do a 10 pull on the current banner, and while you don't get a 5-star, you do get 4-star Sucrose. Now what do you get with Sucrose besides Albedo's assistant? Well, Sucrose is an animo-wielding catalyst user who is phenomenal at doing swirl reactions as well as buffing your other character's elemental mastery. I'm Kessie, Mango, whatever the hell you want to call me. And because not everybody's AR60 with 36-star Abyss, I decided that I was going to make videos that hopefully anybody can understand. So if you do learn something from this video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this beginner guide for Sucrose. All right, so just like always, we are going to look at my current Sucrose, so that way if you start building your own and you notice that the numbers don't quite match up, it might just be because we have different builds, higher levels, things like that. Okay, so my Sucrose is only level 60 out of 70. I do need to take that up because her reactions need her at higher levels. That's something that I'm working on, kind of-ish. Elemental Mastery, 572. That is the stat that really matters the most, as well as some Energy Recharge, which is 115. So that way you can have her burst up more often. For weapons, I am running a level 90 R4 Sacrificial Fragments. That gives Elemental Mastery, but we'll talk about beginner-friendly weapons in a second. For artifacts, I am running a 4-piece VV. Whenever we start talking about her skill, you will notice that I will be able to use her skill more times than somebody that just got Sucrose would be able to because of the Constellation 1. That is the only difference between my Sucrose and a C0 Sucrose. So first we're going to talk about her normal and her charge attacks, as well as her skills and her burst. So her normal attack is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. And then her charge attack is just going to do an animo damage. Now, because she is a catalyst wielder, all of her normal and charge attacks will be dealing animo damage. Now, you will see here that for her charge attack, it does take stamina, as well as knock the enemy back a little bit. So for her skill, she's going to throw out a small animo spirit that's going to do a little bit of crowd control, or CC, as some people call it. And it is going to the enemies together within its range. You see right there, it pulled them all in together and actually lifted them off the ground a little bit. And you see it's got a pretty good range. Now for her burst, she is going to throw a much larger animo spirit that is actually going to have pulses as well as crowd control. So it's going to pull in everybody. And it's going to kind of lift them up and do that in a pulsing manner. So Sucrose is going to be an on-field and off-field kind of-ish. Like, okay, so if we throw her skill out and swap, by the time it ends, you can't really swap to another character, right? So you have to kind of partner her up with some off-field characters, so that way she can swirl their elements around. Now her burst, though, you can get it on the field and swap to another character. And we'll talk about how it absorbed that element in a little bit. An on-field and an off-field in a way, but you really want to do the swirl and then swap to somebody else anyway. Okay, so now we're going to talk about artifacts. Now, by far, the best beginner artifact set for Sucrose is going to be the Instructor set. Getting the extra Elemental Mastery, as well as the 4-piece set where you get Elemental Mastery after you cause a reaction, is going to be very, very good for Sucrose until you get further into the game. So you want to get as much Elemental Mastery on her as you can. So having main stat Elemental Mastery is really, really good for as many pieces as you can have it. And in the substats, if you can get Elemental Mastery, that can also be really, really good and really beneficial. But the main stat of Elemental Mastery is going to be more important than the substat of Elemental Mastery. Now we are going to talk about weapons. So for a 3-star weapon, and we will talk about one 4-star weapon, the Emerald Orb can be really good because it gets up Elemental Mastery, as well as upon causing Vaporize, Electrocharge, Frozen Bloom, Hydro-Infused Swirl reactions, it'll increase attack by 30%. The attack's not as important, but getting that Elemental Mastery up is. The Magic Guide is another one that can also get up Elemental Mastery, and you see here it increases damage inflicted by Hydro and Electro. So this is another weapon that can be really good, especially if you're going to be running Sucrose with Hydro and Electro characters. Now, of course, we do always have Thrilling Tales, which is always, always, always a great option to have for Catalyst users. However, Sucrose will not benefit from it as much. This would really be if you were using Sucrose to then switch to another character, so that way you could get its secondary effect of increasing the other character's attack. But for the best 3-star weapons, Magic Guide, Emerald Orb. Probably Magic Guide over Emerald Orb, I would say, because you're going to get more elemental mastery out of that. Now, there is another option. You have a 4-star Mappa Mar, which is a craftable weapon, and you are given the recipe to craft this when you start the game. So as soon as you get into Mondstadt, if you have the materials, you can craft a Mappa Mar. Now, Mappa Mar does get up elemental mastery, not as much as Magic Guide, but it does have triggering elemental reaction grants an 8% elemental damage bonus for 10 seconds, max of 2 stacks. So that can be good. I do think that Magic Guide is going to give you more elemental mastery, less attack, more elemental mastery, but Magic Guide will also give you the secondary effect for Hydro and Electro. So if you're running Electro Charge team, if you're running a team with Hydro and Electro characters with Sucrose, Magic Guide might be your best early game option until you can get something like Sacrificial Fragments. Okay, so for a beginner-friendly party using the characters that you have access to early game, Barbara, because you get access to her once you finish the Anima Archon quest and Mondstadt, you can do an Electro Charge kind of overload vaporized team. Now, the weak point in this is going to be Amber. And I only say that because she doesn't apply a ton of pyro. If you have cleared floor 3 of the Spiral Abyss, you do get Xiangling for free, and she would be a much better option than Amber. So that is who we are going to use for this party right now. So with Sucrose, we want to have off-field elemental application, right? We want Sucrose to be able to come on the field once other elements are present and swirl them. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out by using Barbara's skill. We're going to drop Guoba for Xiangling, go to Sucrose, and swirl, and you see we got some vaporize reactions in there. Now, because one of them still has Hydro on them, we don't exactly have to go back to Barbara yet. We can just continue to swirl that Hydro on that character back in there. Now, we don't have Hydro on anybody else right now, so we're going to go drop Lisa's Burst. We're going to drop Guoba again. We're going to drop some Hydro. Go back and just swirl it all together. And that is what we want to do. We want to get out as many different elements as we possibly can, so that way we can swirl the different elements together. See right there, we just got a bunch of overload reactions, some electro charge in there. That's what we want. We want as many elements on the field as possible. And if we can just honestly inflict one of them with the element, then we can just swirl them all together. See, and it's going to pull in there. Now, you see how that's purple? The burst actually picked up the electro element, and it was doing pulse electro damage. So it was going to be causing a bunch of overload reactions with the enemies that were already afflicted by pyro, as well as some electro charge if we had had some hydro in there. So what we want to do is we just want to get as many elements out on the field as we can to swirl them together. I could be timing Lisa's burst a lot better, honestly. So this would be a pretty decent early game team. That is assuming that you have not pulled any other characters besides Sucrose, in which case you could swap out a lot of these different characters to get different reactions and to get better, more consistent reactions. But this is just assuming that the only thing that you've done is you've got your Lisa, you finished the Anemo Archon quest, and you finished floor 4 of the Abyss. If not, again, you can swap in Amber for her. So again, you can swap in Amber instead of Xiangling, and if you don't have a Hydro character yet, then you can use Kaya, you can use Anemo Traveler, and really just be focusing more on overload reactions. But if you have a Hydro unit like Candace that's on the current banner, then Candace can easily fill this spot for Barbara if you have not finished the Anemo Archon quest. And that is going to be it for the beginner guide for Sucrose. If you did learn something, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will see you in the next video.